People tend to remember Durham City either for its Norman cathedral, its university, or its rather less comfortable nick, depending on which institution they happen to get mixed up with. But Durham is also famous for making organs, and this works in a Victorian back street is the main centre of its organ organisation. The firm of Harrison and Harrison is 110 years old, and in spite of its modest premises, it's made and maintains some of the world's greatest instruments, not only for cathedrals like Durham and Coventry and Westminster and Manchester and St Albans and Belfast, but for the Royal Festival Hall, Bristol's Colston Hall, Trinity College, Oxford, and St George's Chapel, Windsor. It's a family firm, just 3 generations, and the present head is Mr. Cuthbert Temple Lane Harrison, 65 years old, who remembers the works from childhood.
Well, I think the earliest recollections was during the 1418 war, when there was no staff, there was no money, there was nothing, and when I came home from school, I had to come and work in here under my father's control. The chief job was finding every lost screw in the factory, sorting it into size, putting them into boxes, the clean ones in one box, the rusty ones in another, and then eventually trying to clean the rusty ones with paraffin and oil so they could be used.
Harrisons have come a long way since the days when young Cuthbert groped around to save rusty screws. The sense of history is still there, but so is a proud feeling of achievement. How did it come about?
I think it was 2 things, well, 2 men, again, my immediate predecessors, who insisted on almost perfection. My father mechanically and my uncle tonally.
The Reverend John Bacchus Dykes, who wrote what's been unkindly called the strawberry jam of church music, pop hymns like Rock of Ages and Eternal Father Strong to Save, first got grandfather Harrison to Durham from Rochdale, where he'd already started building organs. That was a century ago.
Well, I don't know exactly what my grandfather was like. I hardly remember him at all. My uncle was the, I suppose, the senior partner. He was the man who sort of went out and answered inquiries. Also, my uncle was the pipe man, and he was, I won't say he was an enemy of mine, but I walked about in mortal fear of him all the time. I think they treated me very strictly. At least I thought so. I mean, I had to keep very strict times, and I got the hammer if I wasn't seen working, and my uncle was always giving me hell. My father rather less so, I think. I was always playing in here. I used to pinch bits of wood and bits of magnets and bits of wire and take them home and make things and see how they worked and that sort of thing. And I was allowed a certain amount of freedom to wander about. But I think there was no more ribbing done to me than there was to the other youngsters in the place. I always remember once I was flattening some phosphoron wires on an anvil, and one of the real old characters of the place sort of beckoned me across the shop and said, go downstairs and see Bates and he'll give you the felt-headed hammer and won't make so much noise. So I sort of obediently set off, and I was halfway down the stairs and it dawned on me that such a thing as a felt-headed hammer would hardly be useful, and I was thoroughly having my leg pulled. So I just went back and went on hammering with the noise, and the old gentleman lost that one, I think.
On the face of it, the works themselves haven't changed a great deal over 50 or even 100 years. Concessions have been made to modern aids like electricity, but still the old glue pots bubble away and everything's still made by hand.
We have craftsmanship here because you can't build an organ without craftsmanship. It's nearly all hand tools, you see. As you've seen, our machinery side is very small indeed, and nothing is standard. Every organ is one-off. Everything has to be designed and drawn out to fit the church, the space it's got to go into, the scale of the organ. Some of these lads, you've looked around this factory and you've seen lads in their 20s, and you see the work they're turning out. I try and give every man a fairly broad education in all aspects of organ building. I mean, he's making a different thing one month to what he's making the next. But eventually, of course, you find a particular bent of any one man, and you probably use him rather more in one line of country than another.
One example of this is Mr. Leslie Rowland. He's been with Harrison's now just on 50 years, much of which time he's spent in the voicing shop, where, as they say in the trade, he makes the new pipes speak. The one he's giving voice to now is the biggest in this particular job, a 16-footer with the lovely name Dulciana. Organists should call their daughters Dulciana. There are other colourful names for organ pipes collected right down the centuries from many languages. Viola d'amore, Clarabella, Lieblich gedeckt, Diapason, Corno di bassetto and Vox angelica, voice of the angels. The organ's an ancient instrument. 2,500 years BC the Egyptians evolved it. The Hebrews, Greeks and Romans developed them, and the Romans used them at gladiatorial contests, either to warm up the arena or to hide the screams of lion-crunched Christians. Nero played the organ himself.
An organ pipe is very similar to a human being, in as much as they have a body, they have feet, they have a mouth, a top lip, a bottom lip, a tongue, and ears. And as we, when we speak, have to open our mouths sufficiently and correctly, so the organ pipe has to have sufficient opening, which is this here, to make it speak correctly. I often think that we are much in the position of the doctor, as he has to decide whether he treats you for a bad cold or bronchitis. So we have with the organ pipe.
Morning, Mr. Neat. Nice to see you.
Nice to
Haven't
see
been
you
here
here.
for a long time.
Have you
40
not?
years.
Really? It's lovely.
Yes, yes. How do you do? What's the great trouble today, do you think? Old age?
One of Mr. Harrison's tasks is to go out and quote for organ repairs, armed like a doctor with his little black bag. This one at Sherburn Village, just outside Durham, his grandfather built 98 years ago. In those days it cost £260. Today that might just buy one rank of pipes.
You're worrying at the moment about the tuning? Yes. Only?
Yes.
And are they on certain stops or just different stops?
Certain stops, mainly reeds and the organ diapason.
The open diapason? Yes. That's only dirt. Let's hear the great.
Sounds out of tune.
Yes, well,
You press the note and
they'll
then
be
it-
getting dirty, what we call tired. It's a question of metal fatigue, of course, that's what it is. Right, let's have the books off. Would you want to have the book poured out and show Mr. Neat where the wear and tear takes place in 90 years of use. Thanks very much. I see it's all these little things. You can see the wear and the rust on all those wire pins, you see.
Yes.
All those little joints there, those hinges, and all this stuff you see is all terribly loose, terribly dirty, and all one sort of redoing. Now you stay down, I'll do something about this for you. In all the old specifications that my grandfather had, the front pipes will be of great weight and substance.
Oh.
Feel the weight of that fella. It's almost impossible. Now I will not lift him down, but if you're looking here...
Yes, it is
No,
terrifically
even
heavy.
really is. Very heavy.
Very heavy indeed.
I'll just get a pipe out. Now,
This one back.
you see,
Side.
there's a damaged pipe.
Oh,
Now,
yes.
it's filthy dirty again. It's full of dirt there. They want to be rounded out, cleaned,
Yes.
and what we call new slides put on
Oh,
there.
yes. Yes, I see.
And all of this you'll see is leaning
Yeah.
out of plumb,
Yes,
full of
lean,
dirt.
I can see it leaning.
You can see the whole
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
So that's the sort of work that,
Yes.
I wouldn't say it's imperative, but you've got to be thinking about it
Oh,
in the
we
very
ought
near
to,
future.
yes.
So we'll put him back. Now that my hand's dirty, I won't touch your
Uh-huh.
beautiful new pipes. But you see what we're after?
Yes, I understand.
Very
Yes.
good.
There's something loose here. What's this
No, that's a bit of broken tracker.
Oh yes, there's all sorts of things happen. You get the odd cat that gets into the organ, and you hear of them having been squeezed between the swell shutters when the organist has been playing on Sunday. I have had them and found them running about in the organ because they got in and couldn't find the way out. Similarly, you will often find that the vicar's dog has got in and he's been rampaging about amongst the pipes. It is nothing strange in the country districts to go in and see the field mice running round about between the pipes, and you see the tracks there. Also, they have a nasty habit of eating the leather, and they'll eat the gussets of the reservoir. Consequently, you have jobs to repair that you don't anticipate.
But Harrison's horizons have widened from mouse-ridden country churches. Now the organs go out all over the world, like this £35,000 job for the Church of the Holy Spirit at Lake Forest, Illinois, on the posher side of Chicago. Once built, it's dismantled again for packing and shipping to the States. Harrison's men follow from Durham to re-erect it. There are other overseas jobs on too, for Savannah, Georgia and Stockholm City Hall, which all tends to keep Mr. Harrison moving in a larger world than his ancestors.
I think my uncle once went to Paris. As he took his daughter with him, I think it was all right. But I've been everywhere. When we got our first inquiries from Nigeria, I went out to Lagos myself. I've been there twice. Our inquiries from Auckland, I went out there. I thought it was the only way to show the necessary interest. Cincinnati again, and both Lake Forest, the organ we've been seeing, and Savannah, I went out to both those places.
It was in Nigeria that Mr. Harrison met the Parochial Organ Fund Committee at St. Paul's Church, Breadfruit, Lagos.
The thing that astounds me every time I go anywhere is the incredible hospitality. I mean, in Lagos, I might have been the Queen, I think. When I went to Auckland and New Zealand, it was just the same, and in America, undeniably so. Rather too hospitable sometimes for one's constitution.
With such international prestige, why does the firm stick to a rather narrow Victorian back street in Durham City?
Well, I think we're Harrisons of Durham. We must remember that all the houses round here weren't built when this factory was converted from an old paper mill into an organ factory. I mean, people say to me, what's your address? I say, Durham. They say, what? I said, well, Durham's only a very small place, you know. I'm easily found. And it works. And I mean, we are a small company. 'Tis a small town. Why get lost in the seething masses?
At St Andrew's Church in Newcastle, much knocked about by Scottish cannon during the Civil War siege, Harrisons have another repair job, with men working full-time in the church.
Are you up there, Harry?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Right, I'll come up.
Yes, I'm on the grave, sir.
I see you've provided me with my bow handle that I insist on so much.
Oh, that...
Falling in.
Yeah, well, it is a big help
Jolly
when you
good.
get it over there, especially when you get to the top of the ladder.
Anyway, well, this looks fine, doesn't it?
Certainly does, yeah.
Coming on like nobody's business. Are you getting all the slides now? Or have you got more?
Well, no, I have another packet to select yet at the works, relative to the bourdon and the flute.
Jolly nice pipes.
It is very good pipe work,
Good
yeah.
stuff.
What would
There's
you say
rather
it
a
is?
joy in rebuilding an organ which has already done the church 80 years good service when you've got stuff like this to work on and restore and clean and re-slide and make all the difference in the world.
Quietly and with no one listening, Mr. Harrison has been known to play the organ as well as build it.
Well, I'm not a musical performer. That I understand music, the theory, and I'm interested in it and like listening to it and study it is another thing. But I'm not a performer. My uncle was an average performer. My father wasn't. And my father was sort of the practical action woodwork drawing man, and I think I sort of followed his line of country, really, I suppose.
But when a job's finished, the congregation waiting, the organist ready, how does Mr. Harrison, the practical builder and shy musician, feel?
Well, it all depends. If I'm listening to a new organ of our own that's being opened or something like that, I'm listening, thinking of all the thousands of little bits of things that are working and hoping that they'll continue to work till the end of the show. Roughly. I mean, you can't deny that fact that something might suddenly come off, a note might go off or something. But of course, composers are awfully unkind, you know. They write organ music, and an awful lot of organ music, with a sustained pedal note, which is held for a great many bars. Well, it's very difficult, unless you know that music intimately, to know whether the note is being held by the player or whether it's stuck.